Good morning, beautiful people. You're with Kylie, and I can't say sunny Queensland today because it's raining. So it's very overcast and dark here. This morning we're going to start Zip It Up 2.0. So I hope you guys are going to like this one. Alright, so firstly what we're going to need is our lining, main, and either soft and stable, or I use double-sided foam. Once you quilt those together, there's going to be a measurement. This is this bag comes in two sizes, large or small. I'm doing the large. So I quilted my fabric and I've cut it down to size. So this is the body. And from quilted set B, you need to cut your two outer pocket pieces. Right there. I'm going to turn this other light on, like that for you guys. Once you've done that, the rest of the components needed are inner single pocket binding, inner double pocket binding. Now this one says 3, but I'm pretty sure I've done 4. And this one here, I'm pretty sure it's only meant to be 1, but I've done 2 because I don't like just leaving my zippers bare. I like to bind them. We're also going to need 2 pieces for inner pocket facing, right there. Handle stabilizer, outer front pocket border, outer front pocket binding, center facing, a little piece for our zipper tab, then you have a choice of vinyl or mesh. So I've got a pocket in mesh and 2 vinyl pockets cut. Then we're going to move on to our fusible interfacing. So we have center facing interfacing, outer front pocket border interfacing, inner pocket facing interfacing, and you want 2. Then we're going to cut 2 pieces of webbing or whatever you want for your handle stabilizer. That's it there. And we're also going to need to cut quite a few pieces of elastic, double fold over elastic. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces right there. Then we also need our binding, which is all done. That is it as far as fusible interfacing, stabilizer, mesh, vinyl, coordinating fabric and stuff like that. I do have my badge here, and I have a bit of stuff to stabilize my badge. Then we're going to need zippers. So there's one long one, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shorter ones there, all cut. I'll just check that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, 5. 5 shorter ones. So there'd be 2 outside pockets, 3 inside pockets, and then the big zipper to close the bag. And other than that, we just need 6 pulls. And that is it as far as the hardware goes. So I'll stick these little knickknacks back in my bag here. I have found the drop zone is very good for this. It helps keep all the bits and bobs together for the project that I'm doing. So I love it. Alright. And what the pattern wants us to do next is, if you haven't already cut your zippers to length, and you know you're using a big zippers by the yard or something, just want you to cut the pieces to what you need. Also to make your bias binding if you haven't done so. After that, we're going to go down to the interfacing. We're going to put our interfacing on. So we're going to grab our outer front pocket border and the interfacing for that border. Just fuse them to the wrong side of the fabric. So I have our main fabric down. So we'll do that one. Our outer front pocket border and the interfacing for that one as well. It should be about 1/4 of an inch gap all the way around, so we sort of want to center that one as best we can. Then we have our 2 pieces of inner pocket facing. We want to get these ones and fold them in half, like so. Take it to the iron and put a good crease in that, like that. Now, if you're using directional fabric, make sure the top of the fabric is at the top. We're going to take our interfacing. We're going to lay it along that crease on the top half of that. And we'll do that with both of them. So this one as well, we'll fold it in half, get our crease, and then we'll lay this one down on that. So we'll take all them to the iron and attach those. Next up, guys, we want to take the center facing that we just put the interfacing onto. We're going to fold it in half and mark the center there. After that, we want to bring the edges into that center line and give them a good crease with the iron. We'll do that on both sides. And we want to flip it over and just draw those lines in that we marked with the iron there on the main fabric side. Then we have measurements that we want to mark from the top down. Make sure you get the right measurements for the size of the bag that you're making. And we will just measure from the top all the way down at different intervals there, all the way down to the last one there. Then we want to take our pieces of fold over elastic. You can use either side, the shiny or the dull. It's entirely up to you. We want to place them below the line that we drew. So each one, we will place the fold over elastic below that line, clip it or pin it, entirely your preference, and we will do that all the way down. So like so. all the way, so just below the lines we've marked. There we go, just like that. Next, we want to go to our machine. We're going to sew 1/8 to attach them all the way down on the edge there. Now you're going to notice, as you can see here, they're a bit short for the actual piece of fabric that we have. That is so once they've all been put down, you're going to have a nice taut piece and not floppy like this. So whatever you put in there, it's going to hold it. So what you're going to need to do is on one edge, bring them all to the edge, pin or clip, sew them down the 1/8, then go to the other side and just apply a bit of tension to bring them to the edge and stitch all them down with 1/8 all the way down. There we go. So I've sewn them all down. Once that's all completed, we just want to fold them back in to our center line. It says just pin or clip it to hold it in place. I've just stuck some pins in purely because where the edges were sewn and the tension that's been put on, it's wanting to pull back. It also says just to lower the heat on your iron and just give it a bit of a press with the iron once you fold the edges under. So we've done all that, we can set that aside. Then we want to move on to our handles and our handle stabilizer straps. So we'll take our handle stabilizer or handle, either one, because they're both the same. We want to put right sides together all the way down, pin or clip, and sew that 1/4 inch seam from top to bottom all the way. That will look like this once you press the seam open. So we will do that to both the handle and the handle stabilizer fabric. Then we'll turn them right side out. There we go. Handle and stabilizer are done. So when you put your stabilizer in, once you've turned your handle fabric right side out, it's about a 1/2 inch gap on each end. So we leave the ends unfinished. We don't tuck the fabric in on either the handle or the handle stabilizer, which goes down underneath the handle. So we leave that gap at each end. So you just want to, on your handle piece, there's 2 measurements, and we just want to measure from the bottom up for each one and mark a line. And this is just going to show where our cross goes for sewing our handle down to the top of the bag, and one on this end as well. So once we've done that to those 2, we can set them aside until later. Now we're going to move on to our pocket. For this, you're going to want your front pocket there and one of your zippers. You're also going to want your front pocket border and your front pocket binding and a zip pull if you haven't got one on already. Now I had a look at the pattern. As soon as we do the front pocket, we also do the back pocket. So I got out 2 zip tape and 2 pulls and the back pocket, and I will do exactly the same to the back pocket as I do to the front pocket, and I'll do them both at the same time. The only difference being the border only goes on the front. So what we want to do is I just put my emblem on so I have a bit of stabilizer behind that. But on your pocket, you want to measure from the top down, and unfortunately the measurement falls where I've got a quilting line, so it's very hard, I think, for you guys to see. Hang on, if I put this other light on, I don't know if maybe, oh yeah, that's a bit better. There we are. There we go. So you're just going to measure from the top down and draw that line. Next we want to grab our border. If it's directional fabric, make sure that the print is facing this way, down. So with my emblem on there, I have it so it's upside down. We're going to bring it up and line up the edge of our material with that line there. Take it to the machine and sew a 1/4 inch from one side to the other. I've sewn down the border. It looks lovely, and I just ironed it up. Make that crease set in and iron it up so it sits there well. What you can do is just sew 1/8 around to hold it in place. Once that's done, when I stop bonking you guys, we just want to attach the zip tape or the zipper, whichever the case may be for you guys. So I will have it pretty much equal excess off to the sides there. We'll sew that down with a generous 1/4 inch on that one, and I'll do the same to the back one as well, because this is where we it's the same for the front and the back now when we're doing the zipper. Here we go. The zipper is totally on. It went a little bit janky here, so it went good here and on the other side, but here it went a bit funny, and I unpicked it and tried to fix it, but it's because of the extra stabilizer there. It wouldn't bend over properly, so I couldn't get it to stay no matter what I did. I would have had to undo the facing and cut the stabilizer back there. I didn't really want to have to do all that, so, but that's all right. So I sewed the zipper down. Once we attach it the first time, then you just flip it to the back and cover the raw edges. Then I'll put the binding on. When you do that, just make sure you get it in line with the sides here. And I stuck the zip pull on. So I will do, this is the back, so I put the zipper on and then enclosed all the raw edging. Oh, sorry about that. And I'll show putting this zipper on. So I just separate the two teeth. Now if I can get it to focus good. And I cut off 2 teeth on the end on an angle. Just like that. And I use my old scissors. I do not never ever use good scissors. Oh, there it is. And I grab my pull. I will put it, and I'm sorry for being repetitious guys, but this is just for new viewers who may not have seen my other videos. So here's the edge, and I'll put 2 teeth just in past, a couple of teeth just in past that edge on this side. Only a few. To put too much and you can't do the zip, put the zip pull on. So get it situated here. I'm doing this through the camera so it's a bit more awkward. And I'll bring it around and bend it in. See, as you can see, it's about the same amount in each side. Now I'll just stabilize that, move that away, put it down and pop it on. There you go. Where you get your issues with putting zip pull on is people put too much of this side into the pull, then try to get the other side to go in, and it can't because there's too much teeth in this side and they can't like connect up. So if you only put a couple of teeth in on the right hand side, say, when you stick then the left hand side in, it just goes straight on with no hassles. So there we have it. Okay, so they're done. Now we can set both of those aside. So with the zip pulls on, lastly what we want to do is just measure from the edge of our zip tape here down to the bottom, and we'll just trim off because we want to cut the pocket down to a certain height, and just trim off the excess. Remember to make sure you read the correct measurement for the size of the pattern that you're currently doing. And we want to do that for both of them. Cut them both down and we can set them to a side. I need to apologise, guys. As I was doing the back pocket, I forgot to do the binding at the top of the zip there. I seen it there as I was getting the stuff ready for the next pocket to show you guys. So yeah, on the back pocket, you also want to bind the top of the zip like we did with the front one. So now we can finally set those guys aside. Next we're going to do our inner single pocket. Now that can be either your choice of mesh or vinyl, totally up to you. So we're going to want our single pocket binding, and our one inner pocket facing, and a zipper, of which I will put the pull on later. So firstly, we're just going to need our pocket. Now if you're doing the large one, there is only a small difference between the width and the height. Just make sure you have it the right way. We're going to bind the top of it. So what I do in this case is I fold it in half and I iron it. Once I've got that center crease, I'll open it out. Then I will fold in the edges to that center crease, iron them again. Once I get it ironed like that, you then fold it over. Oh, hang on. If I do it like that, and then like that. So once you've got it ironed like that, then you just fold it over again, give it a good iron. And you can use a bit of double-sided tape in here, one on each side. Just slip that mesh in up to the edge there, like that. It will stick to the double-sided tape. Do that all the way along. Then you just bring the next one over, and because they've been folded and taken to the center, they are exact. Provided you get that mesh to that folded edge in there, the original one we done, that will be identical, like so. We just want to sew that down then. There's the binding put down. As you can see, the edges line up. Now what we want to do is attach that to the zipper. So I haven't sewn this down because I'll do that when I attach it to the zipper. I'm going to line it up, have equal amounts on each end. and just line it up. I'm going to put the edge of my binding, I'll grab my stiletto just here. Going to put the edge here and line it up with this bottom edge here, like so. And I'll use a bit of double-sided tape just to hold that down like that, and I will sew all 4 edges on the binding. And here we have it totally sewn down, come up very well. Next, in the pattern, we're going to put the facing on this pocket. I'm gonna explain 2 ways, okay? Because I think the way the pattern wants us to do it is a bit but anyway, so what the pattern wants is, with the facing, we interfaced it at the start of our sewing. Now the pattern says to have it folded in half, have the best side down, put the folded edge along the edge of your zip tape there, like that, right, along the very edge, and sew that down at 1/4 inch. Then fold it up, press it up like that, and flip it over, sew the tape down to the facing like that, which will create a top stitch on your facing on the front. Okay, then it says to sew along here and stitch the 2 raw edges together. I hope I didn't just confuse you guys, but actually I'll pin it and try and do it that way. Okay, so put that on. The pattern wants a folded edge put right along the very edge of the tape, like this. Then we sew a 1/4 inch seam down here to attach it. After we do that, we iron it up like so, flip it over, and sew down on the very edge there, just like we do when we're doing, you know, our zipper here. So if we bring it back to the front, the issue I have with that is, as you can see, the stabilizer, the interfacing in there, makes it like stiffer, and once we sew it and then we press it up, can you see how it's separating? It's not in line, they're not together anymore. One piece is shorter than the other. So once we push it up like that and sew down the tape to give us a nice top stitch, then it says to sew across the top here, to sew these 2 pieces together. Yeah, okay, so that's what the pattern says. I tend to think that's a bit silly. That's my opinion. You guys let me know what you think, because this is what I suggest we do with this instead of what the pattern just said. Just take these pins out. I don't see why the pattern would suggest it that way, but I'm not the pattern writer. Anyway, so what I would do, and what I'm going to do, is this. We have our piece. We have it folded in half. I'm going to lay the raw edges along our zip tape, like so. So essentially I'm flipping it. I'm going to get my raw edges, line it along the zip tape, like that. Sew my 1/4 inch down, just like we did, you know, with if you do it the way the pattern wants. But I've got the raw edges there. I'll sew my 1/4 inch, then I'll press it up, flip it over, sew that down. You're enclosing the raw edge, giving yourself a top stitch, and that's it. There's no more. This is already together. There's no more sewing needed to be done. It hasn't moved really, like offset, you know, like it did before. It's done. Yes, admittedly, if you do it the way the pattern says, and you fold and you put the folded edge there and you sew that down, when you turn it up, yes, those raw edges are going to be sewn down to the bag body, right? Like you sew them together, but then they'll be put like that when you attach your pocket. Yes, they will be covered with the binding. So the raw edges will still be covered. But to me, it's not logical. It's just not. Sometimes I get this with patterns where, you know, and I've shown them in my other tutorials too, where, you know, I explain what the pattern wants you to do, but then I explain it a different way to me that makes more sense doing it that way. And this is one of those things. So I've given you guys the 2 explanations. It's up to you guys what you choose to do. I'm going to now go and sew this down, and I'm going to line it up with my binding here, okay, on the sides. I'm going to put my raw edges to the top of the zip tape. I'll sew it down. I'll then take it to the iron and press it up at the seam. I'll flip it over and I'll sew the tape down like we do here, exactly the same. But we just don't have the thickness, we just have the material with the interfacing, that's it. So once I do that, I'll come back to you guys. So let me know in the comments, please, lovelies, guys and gals, which way you think would be better to do that. I would love to hear your opinions on that. Okay, I'll be back. There we go, lovelies. What do you all think of that? Now, I myself think that looks great. I really do. There's the back. So, that is the mesh pocket done. So we can sit that aside with the other pockets. Next up, we're going to do the other 2 pockets. So we're going to need the 2 zip tapes, the binding, the facing, and the 2 pockets, whether that be vinyl, mesh, whichever it is that you chose to do. With one of your pockets, we want to get one of the bindings, and as I showed before, I fold it in half and I get my center crease. I fold each piece into that center crease, each side, and I press it with the iron. I put some double-sided tape down on each side. But prior to that, when I press these sides down with the iron, I then fold it back onto itself like that, and I give it a real good press. And it tends to stay really, really well, as you can see. So I put some double-sided tape down here, as you can see. And what we want to do is make sure you get the right edge of your pocket. So, you know, not the shorter one, you want the longer one. And I line it up and I put it on the crease. So I put the crease of the vinyl right to that center crease there, and I fold it over just like that. I'll pull the tape off and the double-sided tape will hold it there. It will end up looking like that. So we'll do that with both. With that done on them two, we'll then just attach them to the zip tape, the same as we did with the mesh one. Just sewing all 4 edges down. This one we'll attach to that zip tape, sewing all 4 edges down. There we are, guys. That is all down. Went down really easy. Here's the other one. All down. Now you need to pick one pocket, and you would have one piece of binding left. We'll just bind the top of that pocket like so. In a minute. Get it to focus. There we go. So I just bound it down. Alright, that one we can set aside. It's complete now except for the pull, which I'll put that on in a second. This one, we pretty much want to repeat on this one what we did on the first one with the facing. And that one is now totally finished. Came up beautifully. I've got all the pulls on the pockets. With this one, there is a measurement at the bottom of page 7. It just wants us to trim this pocket down to that measurement. Now remember to make sure you use the correct measurement for the size that you're doing. And what we will do is we'll measure from the top here down, and the difference that you need to take off, you'll just take straight off the bottom there. Just real quick, a little tip I forgot to say, if you're using the zippers by the yard or by the meter like I do, when you've got to trim pockets and things like this, you'll find it a lot easier if you do it before you put your pulley on. If you're like me, and you put your pulley on, you know, at the end like I do to save it getting in the way when you're doing all this stuff here, it's just easier to trim your pockets down without the bulge of the zip pull there. Alright, now we're on the home stretch, everyone, and we need all of our components now. But before we dig into those, so we're going to need our bag body, also our handle and handle stabilizer center facing, plus all the pockets we done, as well as our last zipper, zip pull, zip tab and binding. But because they come at the real end, I'm just going to leave them over to the side for now. I'll put these over to the side for a quick second. And what we need to do is we want to look at our bag, if you're using directional fabric, and figure out what you want as your top. So I just stuck a little pin in here for my top, right there. So I figured out I wanted this bit here for my top. And I stuck a pin in. Now we want to flip it over to the lining. I may have to, oh no, I don't really want to take it up any higher if I can get out of it, because it'll make it harder for everyone to see what I'm going to do. So first up, we've got to get in and mark some lines on here. Now on page 7, on the far right hand side, it will give you your measurements. So the very first one, I'm going to zoom in for you guys. There we go. The very first one is this one here. And what we want to do is measure from the outside of our bag, so from this edge here, in. And draw a line, just a little one, only has to be, you know, yay big. Then you want to do is measure from this side in as well. And if your bag is cut to the right sizings, that line should technically be the same when you measure from one side in and then the opposite side in. The line should be the same. If it's not, you want to figure out what, you know, your distance is. If it's 1/4 of an inch, just correct your line. Instead of being the measurement in the pattern, just correct it. So say, for example, this had to be 18 inches from the outside in. Our center mark is 18 inches. Yours is 18 1/4. Instead of putting your line at 18, you would put it at 18 1/8. And then that way it would be the center. Excuse me. Mine, I will zoom in again. When I measured mine from each side, on one it was there, and the other one was not even 1/8 of an inch on the opposite side, right? So here. So they weren't both in the same spot where they should have been. But it wasn't even 1/8 of an inch. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's gonna, you know, just throw it out. It's a little bit, but sometimes those little bits matter. So what I did is I just measured it from the outside in, and I marked it at that measurement. So say 18 inches, right? And I let it go, because if I change that, I've then got to take into account those changes on my other measurements. See, I've got to apply the changes to that. So I just drew the line. To me, less than 1/8 of an inch, you know, it's neither here nor there. So I drew my center line down. Then we need to measure from the outside in again. There's another measurement, and we're going to draw a line from the top to the bottom also, all the way down. We'll measure that same measurement from the left-hand side in, and we'll draw that line. We have 2 more lines. So we're measuring from the outside in again, and you will get this measurement here. And from the outside in again, and you will get that measurement there. Right? Now, to make it a little bit easier for everybody, what a little trick you can do is, I'll just grab my little ruler here. Oh. When you have your center here, if, for example, you had to alter it, okay, instead of trying to add those altered measurements and making sure you alter all the others ones correctly, what you can do is go from your center line, measure out. So instead of measuring from, I'll just zoom out again for a quick second. Instead of measuring from the outside in to get these other 2 measurements here, all you can do is just stick your ruler down. Make sure you got one long enough to go from the top to the bottom, and measure it from that center line. So just like that. And you will draw that line in and flip it around and measure that measurement. You'll see what I mean when you get it. So say, okay, this is, the center is 18 inches. Now, the first mark we've got to mark is 17 3/4. So you can put that down. And then the next mark, so this far outer one here, is 17 1/4, which means you're marking 1/4 inch away from your first center line, and then from that center line you're going to come out 3/4 and draw your line. Do that on both the right hand side of your center and the left hand side of your center. That's if like I said, you don't want to measure from the outside in. I just found it a bit easier to do it that way, you know, is to just measure from the center line, the 1/4 inch and the 3/4 inch lines. I just thought it was a bit quicker, that's all. I just thought I'd tell you guys. Right, so we have those marks done. Then there's one more for the lining. If I can, oh, I want it to go out. There we go. So our very last one then is just this line here. And that's it. And that measurement there should be the same from there down to here as it is from here up to here. This measurement should be equal distance. Okay. We'll flip to the main fabric side. Now I've turned it so you want it so it's tall, and I have my pin marking my top here. So there we go. You want to measure from your bottom up and draw a line from side to side all the way across. Then there's another measurement also from the bottom up, and draw your line across. And like I said, like last time, once I had my first initial mark, I just looked at it. Okay, it's 1/4 inch between this measurement and this measurement, so I just put it, moved my ruler, instead of, you know, measuring it all the way up. I just got my ruler, put the 1/4 inch line on my first line, then done my second one. So we have those two there. Then you want to turn your project around like so, and do the exact same measurements from the bottom up. So let me see, just take that away a little bit and I'll bring this up to there. Okay, so you see you got your two lines here and your two lines here, and these are your handle stabilizer and handle placement lines here. Now we want to flip back to the lining. There we go. We're going to get our pockets for the inside, which is the big pocket that you've done, whether it be vinyl or mesh. Then your other two littler pockets. Now they can be either vinyl or mesh, or the whole lot can be mesh or vinyl, whichever the case may be. Also, I highly recommend, if not recommend, but a little something that I do when I'm working with this. I have the sheets here. I think they're, I can't even remember what they are, but when you're doing like Decavilles, I suppose, pieces, if you're sewing on, you know, say a picture. So say I cut out one of these little fellas here, and then I put this double-side fusible sort of adhesive on it, and then I was positioning him down. When I'm putting that adhesive stuff to the back of this here, you really don't want to use your iron, because it will fuse it to your iron. So you can put this over the top, iron it, and when you take the iron away, it's stuck to your fabric, and then you just peel it off this. So with this, when I was ironing this one here, because once you sewed it down, you wanted to fold it up to then sew, get the glare off that, to sew your other 1/4 inch there with the back of the zipper tape. And to iron it up, I stuck this over the top of my vinyl like that. And then that way, even if I'm mega careful, sometimes, you know, things happen, but that way I'm able to iron it up, and I've got no worries about hitting my vinyl. Yes, the clear vinyl with the iron. So I just thought I'd let you guys know about that. So with that out of the way, onto our little pockets. We want to grab our first one, the big one, and we're going to line it up the top, this edge with the top edge. Now it's going to overhang a little bit on the edges, and you want it to go past or overhang here's our center line here, that's the other line, and that's the other line. So we have 2 lines either side of our center on each side. We want the edge of this to overhang the one closest to our center line there, because when we go to sew this down, that is the line that we're going to come down on. Just see if I can get it to zoom out again. There we go. You can start at, you know, the top left hand corner there, so all the way across, then come down here, so down that line. So not the center, but the next one closest to it. All the way down to the bottom, across the bottom, and up the left hand side. And we'll sew that down with a 1/8 of a seam. And you can get in and trim it up. Easiest way to do that is when it's sewn down, flip it over. So this is on your tabletop, and trim that there with your rotary cutter. It'll come off with no worries. Make sure your pulls are moved in so you don't have to worry about them when you're coming down your edges. Once we've done this one and trimmed it, we will do our small pocket vinyl or mesh with the facing on it. And we'll do exactly the same thing that we just done on this side. So we'll line up the edge with the top of our bag. Make sure the edge of this pocket here is overlapping the closest line to our center line. And we can just start and come across down the side to that line, which is the only line that we had to mark here. We'll sew across that, and then up on that line closest to our center line. Then we can trim this one up like we did that one. Now, this is the easiest way to trim this off, guys. As I was saying, just turn it over, and then you can just put your ruler there. And just trim it straight off. So with this pocket here, once we've sewn it all down, we just want to trim the excess vinyl here that overhangs our sew line down, so there's about 1/4 of an inch left there. You can just use our scissors. Just be careful you don't cut your bag, and we'll just trim it off. If I can cut straight here. There we go. Beautiful. Now what we need to do is grab our other pocket, this one here. Just want to line up the edge of this here with that line, our line there when we sewed across the bottom of that other pocket. We're just going to take this one, make sure it's over our line here, and we'll just line up the top of that with that line, like so. Again, make sure it's over our line there. You could stick a couple of clips right down the bottom here if you like, just to hold it there. Make sure we have a bit of an overhang on the other side as well, on this outer side here, and we can just sew this one down too. So I would sew in my stitch line from the binding there. I would sew across that, come down. Oh, I forgot to mention, when you're going over your zips here at the end, I just go back and forth over it a few times, and then we'll come down and sew all 4 edges of this one and trim it as well, and we'll do that on 1/8 also. That one went down beautifully as well. I got in and trimmed up my tape here and the little bit of excess from these 2 edges. That is the inside totally finished, except for our facing, but everything else on the other side has to be done first. So we're going to flip him over. There we go. We want to grab our handle stabilizer with the seam down. We're going to position it on the inner 2 lines there. So we have the outer 2 lines here. That's for our big pockets here. And these 2 here is for the handle stabilizer and handle. So we're going to turn this over, put it down, and yes, it's going to cover those marks, but those marks there should line up with our stitch lines here. So we put it on there and try and keep it straight. We'll go to the machine, sew down all 4 edges, and we will sew in the stitch line like I said, using the our previous stitching. We'll sew all that down. That went down beautifully. I just went in the previous lines of stitching there. Now it's time to put the handle down. So we'll grab our handle. We'll have our lines on top. I'm going to bring it up here, put a clip in it. Like so. I'll start and I'll just go across the top. Then I'll come down, I'll do my box with my X. Then I'll come down my line of stitching again and finish that off. we want to keep it so it's directly on top of the stabilizer underneath. So this stitch line here is going to meet up with the one underneath there. And we'll move to the bottom. Here's my clip. We'll just bring this up level, put a clip on that one, and I'll repeat what I did on the first half, where I'll come across the bottom, up the side, do my box and my X. I'll do this twice, and then I'll come back down the opposite side and I'll follow my previous stitch line. There we go, lovelies. Well done. Look at that. Beautiful. Handle's nicely attached. All down. Now with that all done, what we have left to do is attach our outer pockets. So we want to take the pocket with the border. We're going to line up our bound edge with this line here. So this line here, we're going to line up this edge with that. Line up our edges here as well. Line that up. You can put some clips on if you like. And we'll just get that all lined up. I'm just going to stick a few clips around here. There we go. So I just stuck a few clips on. And since we're doing this one, I also got in and lined up the other one with the other marker there. Just stuck a few clips on that. So I'm going to sew both of these down, you know, essentially at the same time, because they're both the same. So I'll sew one down and then I'll sew the other one down. They went down beautifully. There's no issues whatsoever with them. They're both down. Next up, we want to, and I found it easiest to do it from the lining side, grab our circular object and just round the corners. So I did go ahead and stitch just inside the lines there on all of them. There we go. We can cut that off. So I rounded all the corners. There we go, guys. I rounded the corners. They come up lovely. I also cut my zip tape and made it level from the other side here. So I snipped them off. Next, what we need to do is take our big zipper, should be the only one you got left. We want to line the end of it up with the center line that we marked here. So we want to put the end of it right there. And then I just went ahead and put some clips on all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that down with just under 1/4 of an inch all the way around till we come around to this line here that we marked. It will tell you in your pattern on page 10. It's the one we put down that we'll use as a guide for our center facing, the piece we put here. So I'm going to stop sewing just before I reach that mark there. Also, another good thing to do is when you're sewing this down, if you open your zipper, it will make this less stiff, and it will conform around these corners so much better than what it's doing now, being that it's the 2 pieces. There we go. Zipper is totally down, all sewn down. Went down very, very easy. Next up, what we want to do is, I had my zipper closed, so it was closed like that, and I got in closed like that, and I just got in and marked it at our measurement where we need to stop just before that measurement there. So I just put a mark on my tape. What I did is, that measurement is here where we sewed this down, so I lined that up there like that, and I put the clips on just like so. They go down pretty easy. Just roughly, because I'll be adjusting it as I go anyways. Now you can pin it down more accurately, but see, as you see there, look at that, beautiful line up. It looks off because I'm actually like bending the, hang on, let me move that up where it's meant to be. There you go, and you can see it there. It looks off because I'm bending the bag, but it actually lines up beautifully. So you can do it that way, or you can open your tape after you've marked it. Open your tape and align that mark there. Put a clip and then come up to the top piece. Now this will come around more because, as you can see, it's very loose here, so I will have more tape, and this should meet perfectly there, like that. So you can get in and you can clip it down precisely if you like, or you can just manipulate it as you sew around, but it will, provided we can't really stretch the tape, but it should line up perfectly like that. And if it does that, then when you do zip the bag closed, the corners and the sides and the front and everything will be aligned beautifully. So it won't be like, how can I explain it? It won't be sort of like this when you zip it up. It won't be offset and sort of skew-iff. So it will line up beautifully. So we'll sew this side down now. There we go, lovelies. All done. So when I was sewing it down, I made sure that this lined up and this was on its marker. Then I unclipped it and I put it around better, and so she perfectly fits. And when you zip it up, oop, nearly pulled it off, it lines up. It's not offset or anything like that, so that's really good. I did stick my zipper tab on though, because with the opening and everything, I didn't want to nearly pull off like I just did. But yeah, so I just stuck that on. But that's really easy. I reckon you guys would know how to put a zip tab on. Also, I did not trim down the tape. It does say to slot it into the elastic and trim it down to the first elastic. I didn't bother because it's really neither here nor there. Provided there's enough to open it so it sits flat so you can get everything out in it easy enough, that's all that's needed. So trimming it down, all it does is gives you a shorter tail, that's it. So what we're going to do now is get our facing. I also forgot to mention too that with trimming up the zipper tape on here, on these, on the other one, and on the front, I did reseal them with my lighter as well, just to stop them fraying. So I did that. Now we're up to our center facing, and it wants us to make sure that the center facing goes over that marker and that marker. All right. So they've got to cover those two lines of stitching, which is the shorter of the two stitches. So it's the 1/4 inch one, not the 3/4 inch one. This is the 3/4 inch one here, because this is the, this is the center. No, hang on. That's the center. That's the 3/4 inch mark. So is that one just there. And this is the 1/4 inch mark there. So it's a certain number and a 1/4, certain number and a 3/4. So that's our 1/4 inch one there. We want this to cover those. Now, I did do it. I showed you earlier when I prepared this that I folded it as per directions in the pattern. Then when you get it and put it down, now it says in the pattern, if it doesn't fit, unfold it, refold it until it is going to fit. So when I had a look at mine, there's no way it was going to fit. It was way too small. I think it was only going to go from like sort of there to maybe here and not here where it's needed. So it was not going to fit at all. I did unfold it. I've had to readjust it. So these here, they're both 1/8 past a half. So that's what I had to do. So what I did is I put down some double-sided tape and I stuck them down once I worked out the measurement. So these here are, what's that? That's 5, 6. I think it's 6/8. I'll just check that. Nope, it's 5/8 because you don't count the first one. Well, yeah. Anyway, it's 5/8. So that's how wide these here are, 5/8 on these ones. And that will now fit. When I put it down, that will now cover both of those stitching. So it will. Like that. So what we want to do is put it down, line it up. It does say to use some double-sided tape, which I will put down later to hold it properly. I'll turn it around this way so you guys can see. So I'm just going to line this up where it needs to be over the top of the zip tape there to the edge, like that. And like I said, I will put some tape down just to hold that in place. But then I'll do that all the way down, make sure it's covering those two lines of stitching all the way down. I'll just grab a clip. And what we want to do is just pin that out of the way. So pin our zip tape out of the way. That will come down to the edge here as well. With your tape holding it in place, we'll flip it over. And the pattern says to stitch in the ditch along this edge here. So along the edge of the binding for the padded pockets. So we'll go and stitch in the ditch along here and stitch in the ditch along here from top to bottom on each one. And provided it is positioned correctly, it will catch both edges perfectly all the way up. It does say in the pattern, if it doesn't catch in places, just stitch it back down, like go back and stitch it. So you can do that. Once we've done that, this is finished except for the binding. So then once I sew that down, then I will actually bind it. Alrighty, and then I will be back to show you guys. There we go, guys. All done. Totally finished. Don't judge me. The binding is atrocious. Looks like a dog's breakfast, to be honest. But I was in a rush, and that's the reason why. Because it's already Tuesday night, and I go in for my surgery Friday morning, and I've got another one that I want to make, another tutorial video that I want to make beforehand, so I was rushing it. So I do plan on undoing it all. Oh, I bonked you guys. Undoing it all and redoing it, so heads up, don't rush. A few key pointers I will point out on your corners here when you're doing your binding. The first lot is not too bad, putting down the, because I always sew it to here first, and then I bring it around to here and sew it back down. So that is totally fine. If you sew it to the front first and then bring it around, that's your thing. But if you do it the way I do it and sew it to here first and then bring it around, obviously when you bring it round, oops, you've got it that way. So when you come to your corners, just take note of your zipper tape here and go slow and push it under like that. Even though I did do that and I went slow around there, like a stitch or two at a time, at one point it did still catch the tape and I had to snip the thread there, and then I just stitched it down a bit more. But yeah, that was just something I wanted to point out there. Here is the facing. The facing turned out brilliantly. Very, very happy with the facing. It went down lovely. I didn't have any issues. I did put a thing of double-sided tape down here and here on the edging here. So then when I put it down, I made sure it covered the 2 lines of stitching on all areas. And what I did is I put this end down first, the top. I put it down and then I flipped it around like this so I could see what I was doing as I put it down. So I'm not looking from the back, yeah? I could see exactly where my stitch lines were, and I put it down. Then I sewed it from here. And I just stitched in the ditch along the binding here. Now I don't know if you're going to be able to see that or not, because I did use a blended cotton. But it did go down beautifully. I do recommend using the double-sided tape there. Just, I have it in enough so when I do my stitching, see, that's still loose, right? So I have it in enough so when I do my stitching, I'm not going to stitch through the double-sided tape. So as you can see, that is still loose and the stitch the line I wanted to cover is just under there. So that gives you an idea of how far in I put the double-sided tape, just so I'm not going to stitch in it. It doesn't gum up my needle that way. Also, when you come down here to the bottom, you've got your tail zipper, yeah? So you have it out of the way and put it down. When you're binding, I had it up like that. I recommend maybe sticking a pin in it. Do your tab so you don't have to worry about your pull coming off. Do your tab and then just stick a pin in here, because if you've done vinyl here or here, obviously you're not going to want to put a pin in that. So just put a pin up here in your facing just to keep it out of the way. It keeps it bent up like that. You can put your binding down. Then when you're sewing it to the other side, it is still up, it is still out of the way, and it's not going to get caught where it shouldn't. But other than that, I'm very happy with it, except for the binding is a dog's breakfast, I will say that. Normally my binding is great, but like I did, you know, I was rushing it, and I know I was rushing it, but it is what it is, you know. I've done Drop Zone, I've done Side Hustle, I've done this one, Zip It Up 2.0, and I plan on doing iCase 2.0 next. So I have all the material for that quilted. Where's my tail? Here it is. And I'm just about to start that now, because I want that for my computer. It's supposed to be an iPad case, but my laptop, I'm doing the big one. I can't remember what size. I'd have to have a look at the thing, but the sizing I'm doing is going to fit my laptop. I did have to make a couple of adjustments. Just added 1/2 inch, and it will fit my laptop. But there you go. I hope you guys like it. Trying to find a cucky bit on the binding. There. Look. Shocking. And here. Oh, another thing I'll say. That's another thing. This material. I don't know what the go was with it, but I made it into the binding, right? Like you normally do. I cut my X amount size square. I folded it into the triangle and I cut it in half. Then I done my period up and the pyramid down, put the sides together, sewed it, folded the two things over and cut it into my strips. Then I joined all my strips, like I do with everything else. And I was putting the binding down on this, and I always apply a small amount of tension to the binding when I'm putting it down. And then I'm coming around to the end where I want to join it, and it's like I joined it, and it had a bit of tension because I applied that tension to it, and I joined it, and that was okay. And so then when I went back to sew down the section, because like I stopped say here, right, and I'd started sort of here, so I had all this here. So I laid it down and I applied a bit of tension because I hadn't sewed the first bit yet, right? Yeah. And I'm going down, and then I folded it over, cut it, sewed it, done. And then I went to sew it down, and it's going okay, and I'm getting around to the end here, and there's like all this excess, and it's really floppy, so it's stretched majorly, and I'm like, oh no. So then I sort of folded it, tried to like tuck it under, like move it across to get rid of the bulk of it, just to spread that bulk looseness out a bit. And I ended up having to pleat it and everything else, and it looked atrocious. So I unpicked it all the way back, and it had a join here, and for some reason it had another join here, and then it had another little join, which I think was my original join to it, and then it came around to here and it had another join and then another join. And I'm like, what? Why is there so many joints in this? But anyway, so what I did is I unpicked it, and then I unpicked there, and I unpicked where I joined it, and I got the bit that was left over, and it was enough. So I sewed it in, and I sewed it down there, like I, really stretched it out to the point that it was taut, really taut, and I put pins in it to hold it, and then again and again and again, and I brought it down, crossed it over, cut it, joined it, and when I joined it and removed the pins, it was, how when there's a lot of tension on something, it will curve it up like this, okay? And that's how it was. And I'm like, sweet, no worries. So then I turned the project around, and I'm sewing it down, the first bit, so then I could flip it under, and I'm sewing it, and I'm sewing it, and I get down to here, and I've still got a lot of excess. So it had stretched even more, even though I had applied that much tension, and like, normally I wouldn't apply that much tension, but I'm like, I'm not having it, muck up again. And it still did. Look, see? Look at that. It just, for some unknown reason, this fabric just really stretched and stretched and stretched. And I couldn't believe it, because I'm like, I've got it that taut. There's no possible way there's any more give in it. But as I was sewing down to here, before I got the chance to turn it around, there was more building up to where it was really, really loose in here. And I'm not undoing it and everything again. So I needed to get it done, get this video finished for you guys, and get the next one started, because I need it. And I've still got to do my bag, done a heap of meat shopping and everything today, and then I've still got to clean the house and my bed, put clean sheets and everything on it, and the sheet over it, because the little guys sleep on it while I'm not here. So when I come home, it will still be clean, because I have the sheet on it, so less chance of infection and everything else. So I've still got a lot of work ahead of me. Okay, so anyway, long story short, I shouldn't have blabbled. I was blabbing. I was just dribbling shit, as we say. Just, yeah. Anyway, does not matter. I hope you guys liked it. I hope this helps somebody. Let me know in the comments what you think, except for the binding. No, kidding. Judge me all you like. I know it's rotten binding. I'll be the first to admit it, but I will fix it. But it's just, I've still got to edit all these videos yet too. I haven't even done that yet, so I have to do all that. And it's like I said today, it's already Thursday night. It's like 8 o'clock Tuesday night, sorry, 8 p.m. Tuesday night. So I'll get this finished, get some photos taken, get it uploaded to the computer, get the other one done, which I don't think will take me long, and get that uploaded for you guys, and then I can edit them all together into tutorials and upload them to the channel and just set dates, and then that way they can just drop for you guys, and it's all done. Because when I come home, I won't be able to sit at the computer and edit them. So yeah, we've got that slight issue, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. I did, even though it was a rush, but hey, it was my choice to make this many. It's just I was trying to get, I've been so annoyed at myself because of delays I've had this year, with things with my parents and stuff. I haven't, been able to get any out to you guys, and it's been frustrating me. And then I got really sick and everything else, so it's done now. I've got a heap done, and I will drop them over the next 2 months for you lot. Anyway, enjoy, good luck, bye for now.